Before we start this story, I want you to know one thing. Please watch till the end, because what happened here came down to a single stroke of luck. Luck born from the misery of others. This isn't just a creepy rideshare story. It's the kind of night that changes you forever. And if things had gone even a little differently, I wouldn't be here to tell it. It was close to midnight when I ordered the ride. I had stayed longer than I planned at a friend's place across town, and by the time I looked at the clock, the last bus had already left. Normally, I don't like taking cabs this late, but I told myself it wasn't a big deal. Just 20 minutes. Straight shot across town. I'd be home before 12:30. The app buzzed and confirmed my driver. A silver sedan, license plate ending in 8NJ. Nothing unusual about it. The profile photo looked like a guy in his 40s, clean-shaven, baseball cap, neutral smile. He had good ratings. I didn't even think twice. When the car pulled up, though, it struck me as off. Not bad, not suspicious at first. Just off. It looked ordinary, but almost too ordinary. Like it had been freshly cleaned inside and out. The paint had a wet shine. The tires gleamed. Even the windows looked polished. That kind of detail sticks in your head, because most rideshare cars aren't spotless. They've got crumbs on the seats, old receipts, maybe a water bottle rolling around on the floor. But this one, it looked like no one had ever sat in it before. The driver leaned across the seat, unlocked the back door with a soft click, and gave me a single nod. No hello. Know you my name? Just a nod. I hesitated a half second before sliding in. The inside was just as clean as the outside. No smell of food, no air freshener, no clutter. Just the faint scent of leather and that new car smell that shouldn't still linger in a car a few years old. I mumbled my address, buckled my seatbelt, and we pulled away. At first, everything seemed fine. He wasn't much of a talker, but a lot of drivers aren't. I didn't mind. I was tired and just wanted to zone out. I scrolled through my phone, the glow lighting my face as the city passed outside the window. The only sounds were the hum of the engine and the faint squeak of the tires on the road. But then I noticed the windows. I pressed the button once, just to get a bit of air. Nothing happened. Pressed again. Still nothing. I tried the button on the other side. Dead too. A small knot twisted in my stomach. Maybe they were disabled. A lot of drivers lock the controls so passengers don't mess with them. Still, I felt uneasy. So I tried the door handle. Not to open it, just to check. Locked. Not locked in the normal way either. It felt firm, like something had been installed to keep it from opening at all. I froze, my fingers still curled around the handle. Child lock, I told myself under my breath. That's all it is. Safety feature. And maybe it was. But suddenly the car felt smaller. The air felt heavier. The driver didn't react to my fiddling. His eyes stayed locked on the road, both hands steady at 10 and 2, his face unreadable in the glow of the dashboard. I shifted in my seat and pulled out my phone, just to reassure myself. The GPS showed we were on the right route. My little blue dot was moving along the purple line, exactly where it should. Nothing wrong. Nothing to worry about. But I couldn't shake the thought of those doors. That glass that wouldn't roll down. The silence didn't help either. Usually drivers will say something, anything. Small talk, a question about music, a comment about the weather. But this guy? Nothing. For the first few minutes I thought he might be shy. But then I realized he wasn't ignoring me by accident. He was choosing not to talk. Every so often, his eyes flicked up to the rearview mirror. Not quick glances like most drivers checking traffic. No, he was looking at me. Watching. Measuring. Then back to the road. I felt my chest tighten, heat rising at the back of my neck. I told myself I was being paranoid. It was late. I was tired. My imagination was winding itself up. Just get through the ride. 20 minutes. Tops. But the car was too clean. Too quiet. Too controlled. Every little detail scratched at me like a warning I couldn't quite put into words. I tried to break the silence. Long night for you? I asked, forcing a light tone. Nothing. I tried again. Do you usually drive this late? No answer. He adjusted his grip on the wheel, knuckles pale against the leather, eyes fixed forward. The only movement was that mirror. Always checking. Always watching. I laughed softly under my breath, but it sounded hollow in the dead air of the car. I turned back to my phone, but I could feel his eyes burning through the glass. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I wasn't imagining things. Maybe something was wrong. I didn't know it then, but the nightmare had already started. The first 10 minutes of the ride had been quiet. Too quiet. The car was a sealed little box of silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the faint scrape of tires on the asphalt. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that the locked doors and the dead windows were just normal safety features. But then we reached the point where the GPS showed a left turn, a familiar route I'd taken before. And he didn't take it. Instead, he veered right. Smooth, casual, like it was nothing. I felt the knot in my stomach tighten. My eyes dropped to my phone. The blue arrow recalculated, drawing a new purple line. The estimated arrival time dropped by 1 minute. Technically, he wasn't lying. It was a faster route. Still, I leaned forward slightly. "Hey, I think it's supposed to be left there," I said. The driver's eyes flicked up to the mirror, catching mine. Then back to the road. "This way's better," he said flatly. His voice was low, clipped, like the words were more of an obligation than an explanation. I tried to laugh it off. "All right, man. Just making sure I'm not getting lost out here." No response. The car hummed along, carrying us deeper into the dark. The houses grew fewer. The streetlights thinned. Soon, it felt like we were the only car on the road, cutting through a corridor of trees. My phone's glow lit my lap. I kept glancing at the map, watching the line bend and curve farther from the parts of town I recognized. I swallowed hard. My thumb hovered over the Share Trip button on the app, but the little warning flashed on my screen, 5% battery. Of course. I plugged it into my pocket charger, but the screen blinked dark for a second before coming back. For those few moments, I sat there in the black interior, the hum of the car filling my ears, my heart pounding louder than the engine. When the map came back up, the route looked longer. More curves, more back roads. I leaned forward again. "Hey, where exactly are we going?" Silence. I tried again, louder this time. "You passed my street, didn't you?" Nothing. Just his hands tightening slightly on the wheel. My chest prickled with heat. My fingers curled around the door handle again, pulling hard. Locked. Same as before. I forced my breathing slow, trying not to sound panicked. "Look, I don't care if this is a shortcut, all right? Just take me back to the main road." His jaw flexed once in the mirror. His eyes caught mine. For the first time, he didn't look away. It wasn't anger in his expression. It wasn't frustration. It was calculation. The kind of look a butcher gives a cut of meat before deciding how to carve it. I felt sweat bead at the back of my neck. My hand slid down to my phone, clutching it like a lifeline. My mind screamed to call someone, anyone, but the battery icon mocked me from the corner of the screen. Then he moved his hand. Not toward me, not aggressively, just casually, like he was shifting his weight, adjusting something near his seat. The headlights of an oncoming truck swept briefly across the cab. For a split second, the light caught the object by his leg, and my blood froze. It was a knife, not a kitchen knife, not a tool that just happened to be there. A hunting blade, long, heavy, its handle worn smooth from use. I stared at it, my lungs locked, my thoughts scattering like broken glass. I couldn't stop thinking, why does he have that here? The answer was too obvious. My fingers dug into the seat. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge that I'd seen it. He just kept driving, eyes forward, one hand on the wheel, the other resting casually close to that blade. I couldn't tell if he wanted me to see it, or if he didn't care anymore. Either way, the message was clear. I wasn't getting home safe. I forced myself to think, to breathe, to move. My phone, my charger, the map still glowing faintly in my lap. I opened the text app and typed a message with trembling fingers. "In a cab. Feels wrong." I hit send to my closest friend. No response. I checked the bars. 2. Weak, flickering. Maybe it went through. Maybe it didn't. I swallowed hard and leaned back against the seat, trying to look calm, even as my insides screamed. I didn't want him to know I'd seen. Didn't want him to sense the panic crawling up my throat. My eyes darted to the road ahead. No stores. No gas stations. No lights. Just more trees. More dark curves. The knife glinted once more as he adjusted his hand. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't my imagination. This was survival. And I had to figure out how. The road felt endless. Blacktop stretching ahead, trees pressing in like walls. The glow of the dashboard was the only light in the cab, painting his face in shifting shadows. His hands never wavered from the wheel. One steady, one hovering too close to the knife. I forced myself to breathe slow, shallow, my body trembling despite my effort to look calm. Inside, panic roared. My mind was screaming at me to do something, anything, before it was too late. But what? The doors were locked. The windows useless. My phone hovered at 3% battery, clutched so tightly in my palm my fingers ached. I had sent a single text, in a cab. Feels wrong, but I had no idea if it even went through. I considered dialing emergency services, blurting out my location. But the thought made bow rise in my throat. What if the call failed? What if he heard me? What if it only sped things up? So I sat there, pretending to be calm, pretending not to notice the knife, pretending I believed his silence meant nothing. The road curved left, the tires growling on the rough asphalt. Then it happened. A pothole. Not a crack, not a bump. A crater, big enough to snap an axle if taken at speed. He slowed. He had to. The hum of the engine dipped, the car dragging to a crawl as the front tires edged toward it. My heart exploded into motion. This was it. This was the only window I'd get. I threw my shoulder against the door. Pain shot through me, bone on metal, but I didn't stop. The lock resisted, groaning under the strain. My palms slipped as I hammered against it again. At first it didn't budge. Panic clawed up my throat. I shoved again, harder, teeth clenched, eyes wide. And then crack. The sound was small, metallic, but it felt like thunder. The lock gave, the catch splitting like something already damaged. The door flew open, air rushing in. Later, I'd realize it wasn't just me. It wasn't just strength or desperation. It was luck. Terrible, awful luck carved out of someone else's misery. That lock hadn't failed because of me. It had failed because it had been weakened, worn down, by other hands. Other victims who had clawed and pulled and begged for the same freedom I'd just stolen. They hadn't made it. I had. The thought still makes me sick. I didn't have time to think about it then. I hurled myself out of the cab, hitting the gravel shoulder hard. Skin tore on my palms, knees scraping raw. Pain lanced through me, but adrenaline forced me to my feet. Help! I screamed, voice raw and ragged. Help! The cab screeched to a halt. Tires skidded, brakes howled. I risked one glance back. The driver had twisted in his seat, his face half lit by the dashboard glow. For the first time I saw his expression clearly. It wasn't anger. It wasn't panic. It was disappointment, like he'd lost something he thought was already his. The knife glinted in his hand as his lips moved. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. Headlights appeared behind us. Another car, rising fast on the road, its beams slicing through the dark. The driver cursed, a low sound I heard even over the roar of blood in my ears. He slammed the gear into drive. The cab lurched forward, skidding past me, spitting gravel into my legs as it tore into the night. I stumbled backward, waving frantically at the approaching car. My throat ripped itself raw as I screamed again. Stop, please. The other car screeched to a halt. Doors flew open. A man and woman jumped out, rushing toward me, shouting questions I couldn't process. I couldn't answer. My chest heaved, my knees bled, my hands shook so hard my phone slipped from my grip and cracked on the pavement. All I could do was stand there, staring into the black stretch of road where the taillights had vanished. I was alive. Barely. Alive because of a pothole, because of a broken lock, because someone else's desperate fight had worn it down enough for me to escape. That thought sat heavier in my chest than the bruises, the cuts, the ache in my lungs. I was alive because of luck. Luck born from misery. And sometimes I wish I didn't know that. If you watched this far, thank you. I want you to remember something. Anytime your gut tells you something feels off, don't ignore it like I did. Don't explain it away. Don't tell yourself you're just tired or paranoid. Trust it. Act on it. Your instincts exist to protect you, and they might be the only thing standing between you and something unthinkable. Let my story be a lesson. I survived by luck, but you don't want to depend on luck. You want to depend on yourself. Stay safe out there. And if you found this story chilling, please like and subscribe to support the channel. It really helps me keep sharing these kinds of stories with you.